Greetings, viewers! Nighthead here, bringing you another review. So, how many of you have seen the movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark? I haven't really seen it myself, but I probably will for Halloween, if only because I want to see how well some of the material from the books is incorporated into the movie. But I'm not here to talk about the movie, I'm here to talk about the source material. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is a 3-book series from a lot of our childhoods, written by Alvin Schwartz, and Stephen Gammell drew the original pictures for it. I'll be getting the Gammell's work later. While some people may prefer long narrative stories, I actually prefer anthologies. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark probably doesn't fit into that category, since there isn't really a framing device linking them together, but I really can't think of what else to call these books. Plus, there's this one character who I guess is meant to be our horror host. Some dude dressed in a long coat and a big hat. He would appear on a page that would tell us what kind of stories we would be reading, though we never really learn his name, if he even has one. Unlike stuff written by R.L. Stine or Stephen King, there aren't really any original stories in this series. It's all mostly borrowed folklore and urban legends from around the world, which isn't a bad thing, mind you. I'd venture to say that this book was what introduced kids to that kind of stuff. But hey, I can also always be wrong about there being no original stories in the series. Maybe Schwartz himself came up with stories like Maybe You Will Remember and The Dream. I certainly can't remember hearing them anywhere else. There is one story in the first book I kind of take issue with, though, and that would be The Wendigo. Basically, it's a story about a man who wants to go hunting in Canada, and only one person will agree to be his guide, because everyone else just seems to be too afraid of the wilds of Canada. Not that I can blame them, moose can be pretty mean out there. During the night, a mysterious voice calls out of the hunter's guide, and the guide is compelled to follow the voice. At the end of the story, we learn that the voice belongs to a Wendigo that dragged the guide along at an incredible speed until his feet burned off, and then it carried him into the air before dropping him to his death. Now, one of two things is possible here. Either Schwartz just completely misunderstood what Wendigo are, or there are stories of Wendigo doing this kind of thing and I just never heard them. I think some of the best stories in the series are the ones that don't explain anything. What was the big toe attached to? How and why does a man turn into an alligator? And why does he want to do that to the rest of his family? I think the best way to take a scare out of a horror story is to over-explain everything. Now, explaining a few things in a horror story can work, but I feel the best way to get a reaction out of your audience is to leave as many things unanswered as possible. Make them wonder what happens to, for lack of a better word, the protagonists of the story. Although personally I think the kid in the big toe had coming to little shit. I hope the monster ate him and his entire family. The first book seems to understand how to do ambiguous endings. The first few stories always ending after an unnerving build-up. The second book, in my opinion, tends to treat its stories like open and shut cases. While the first two stories, something was wrong on the wreck, do have a type of build-up, you can see the conclusion coming a mile away. Now, that isn't to say that the second book doesn't have stories that has the same kind of vibe as stories from the first book. The Voice is a story that has absolutely no explanation as to what's going on. All we know is that the main focus character, Ellen, is being haunted by a mysterious voice as it slowly comes up the stairs towards her room. There's also footsteps from the third book, where a pair of mysterious footsteps just kind of disrupt a girl as she's sitting in her dining room doing her homework. And let me tell you, hearing things like a voice and footsteps that have no body attached to them can be unnerving for any age. While you'd obviously want to read these books to get scared, there are some stories in them that aren't very scary at all. At least not until the end. An example of this would be The Drum. It isn't so much a scary story as it is a folktale about two sisters who want a drum so badly that they become a pair of unruly brats. They get so bad that their mother threatens to leave them with a new mother, one that'll have glass eyes and a wooden tail. By the end of the story, not only do the girls not get the drum, but the mother has completely abandoned the two girls and left them all alone with this monster woman. This scare here comes in two parts for me. Yeah, the new mother is disturbing and all. Why does she have a wooden tail? But there's also the fact that their birth mother pretty much abandoned them to this woman who may or may not treat them badly. Fun little side note here, this story, known as The New Mother, was the inspiration for Neil Gaiman's Coraline. There are also stories that really aren't meant to be scary at all. The Cat in the Shopping Bag, for example, is about how a woman gets her comeuppance for stealing from another person, and the only way Bess and Sam's new pet seem to qualify to be in this series is from the twist ending of the stories. There are also stories that seem to be building up to something scary, only to avert your expectations at the last minute for a little ha-ha. I'm not going to tell you what those stories are, because I think the twists work best when you read the stories for yourself. Okay, I think I've talked enough about one aspect of this series. Let's move on to the art. Like I said, the original illustrations were done by Stephen Gammell, and I can only imagine what kind of art direction he was given. I'm guessing he was told to make pretty much everything as ugly and unnatural as possible, since that's pretty much the vibe you get from looking at the majority of the pictures in this series. The title picture for The Babysitter makes you wonder if he was told to make the characters look like hideous baby dolls, or if that was a choice all on his own. And you can't look at me dead in the eye and expect me to believe that this is a sewer rat. And well, maybe, if it came from the sewers connected to the Springfield nuclear power plant. And then there are the pictures that don't look like they're connected to the story at all. For example, this is from the story Oh Susanna, but has zero connection to it visually. I mean, what am I even looking at here? There's also the picture for The Dead Hand. The premise for that story being that a young man named Tommy Patterson doesn't believe that his local swamp is haunted by spooks, and volunteers to spend the night in there after he's dared by his friends. All seems to be going well at first, until a great darkness surrounds him, and a bunch of black shapes just fly around him when he is seen again. We are told that one of the spooks appears to be a disembodied rotting hand, but it isn't in this picture. Maybe it's the other monsters that haunt the swamp? I don't know. The pictures work really well in making the reader uncomfortable, whether it's to induce a sense of horror, or to get an uncomfortable chuckle. In 2011, when the series was republished, however, the illustrations were redone by Brett Hillquist. The reason? Parents said the illustrations were too scary for their children. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point of the series. To be scary. Some kids like being scared. I wouldn't blame it so much on Gammell as on the complaining parents who bought the books in the first place. Now, I can understand the backlash that occurred when the illustrations were redone, but I also can't say that Brett's artwork is bad. The original element of discomfort is still in some of these pictures. I can also say that this picture of the jerk-ass husband from Just Delicious is way more uncomforting than the original picture drawn for this story. That said, I can also understand why people who grew up with the original books weren't really happy about the art change. It just looks too clean and safe, whereas the original illustrations of the series usually had a dirty and incomplete feel to them. When looking at the redone picture Brett did for The Dream, it's clear he was trying to go for the safe route. Come on, you couldn't have at least drawn the pale woman wearing something while she was leaning over the bed? I mean, I get, in the original book and the film adaptation, the character is nude, but it couldn't have been that hard to draw clothes on her or something. The Scary Story series has been one of the greatest lines of books in regards to horror stories, for kids anyway, following book series such as Short and Shivery and Tales for the Midnight Hour. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is available at your local Barnes & Noble, either as the original 3 books, a trio of audiobooks, or a big fat compilation. You can also find some animations and readings of the stories here on YouTube. They're pretty good, I recommend checking them out. Before I go, allow me to promote Aria Diamond, who made the icon I've been using in this video. Link to her DeviantArt will be in the description below. This is Night saying, thanks for letting me share my thoughts. Please share yours with me.